Okay, so if we talk firstly about common pitfalls that I notice, and actually that I just notice in the squad in general, it would be firstly chasing motivation. So a lot of people really rely on motivation, and you'll hear things like, oh, my head's not in it. I'm not in the right headspace. I don't feel motivated. I've fallen off the wagon. You'll hear all of these phrases. And essentially, it's like chasing motivation, as in waiting for motivation to arrive. And it doesn't happen. Like, it just doesn't work that way. And then what happens is people lose motivation. So they get out of the routine, they lose their structure, and they think, well, it's not working, so I need to find a quick fix. When in actual fact, the quick fixes end up being the long fixes because they don't work, and they don't work long term. So then you do that and then you look for the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, rather than just focusing on the actual basics and what works. So the first thing I would say is don't chase motivation. Know that we're not going to feel 100% motivated all the time. And that can depend on so many different factors. It can depend on our energy levels. It can depend on our stress levels. It can depend on what we've got going on in our lives, our hormones. And it could just happen. Like, it can just depend on life in general. We're not going to be 100% motivated all the time. So we have to rely on routine. And if you have the luxury of doing so, work out first thing in the morning, and then it starts your day in the best way. You have good energy for the rest of the day, and it's done. You don't have to think about it. Even if you've got to get up earlier and you're not a morning person, if you struggle with motivation, that is what I would do. And I promise you, then you soon get used to it very quickly. If you don't have the luxury of doing that, just plan your classes, your rough structure for the week. Everyone, no matter whether you're doing it at the same time or not, choose a range target for the week. Your lower non-negotiable minimum, that's your safety net. You never, ever go below that. That is your promise. That's your promise. And then your ideal week that you aim towards. Anywhere in between is a win. And just having that structure, having that routine is going to help you not rely on motivation, because all of a sudden it just becomes something that's part of your week and part of what you do. And it doesn't have to be at the exact same time. You might have your workout days. And depending on what's happening in life, you might try and do it in the morning or try and do it when you get home from work. But at some point it's going to happen that day. And then you've got the rule of 3. So if it doesn't happen that day, okay, life happens. That's okay. That's okay. We make sure it happens on day 2. And if for whatever reason it doesn't happen on day 2, well, we spend that day making sure that we prepped everything, like chosen the class, got it out on our laptop or pad or computer, whatever we're using. We've got our clothes ready. They're set out on the floor. It has to happen on day 3. That is an absolute non-negotiable, because it's a promise that you set to yourself. So rule of 3 is so, so incredibly important. Never, ever, ever, never, what's the word that I'm trying to look for? I don't know, it's gone, but never ever miss day 3, because then we start breaking promises with ourselves. And that's when we don't trust ourselves. And that's when we can really, really start to let our good habits slip, because we don't believe the things that we're going to tell ourselves. We don't commit 100%. So that would be what I'd say. I would also say that people sometimes then also forget to prioritize themselves, because they get so busy with everything else, with all the demands of their job, of kids, maybe aging parents, whatever it might be, that they forget to prioritize themselves. And then when they get out of the habit of doing it, they forget how good it feels to look after themselves. And it's only when they go back and they do that first session or the second session, like, oh my gosh, this is what it feels like. And this is what it feels like to feel good, to have energy. And they start to do that and show up for themselves. Action creates motivation. They feel good. It starts to radiate out from them, this positive energy. And all of a sudden they feel more confident, and they're holding themselves in a different way. They're showing up differently at home, with their friends, with their family, at work. And it's just incredible. So I would say that. And the third thing would be getting frustrated with the results they're not getting from the work they're not doing. And it's all related, and it all happens with just getting out of the habit. And the only way to get straight back into it is draw a line and don't even think about what has or hasn't already happened. We just draw a line and we move on from here. And just get into routine. Every Sunday, plan the classes for the week ahead, set our range targets, and just show up. And that's what we have to do. And know that sometimes if we've only got 30% and we show up to class and we give it what we've got, then that's 100% on that day. So just not being hard on ourselves, not trying to be perfect, not trying to chase perfection. anything is better than nothing and anything is good. And showing up for ourselves, no matter how we feel and whatever we're wearing, is so important. So first and foremost, in terms of what to focus on food-wise, it's protein. It is protein at every meal because it's the most satiating thing. It's going to keep you feeling fuller for longer. It's going to stop, with that in mind, it's going to stop kind of mindless snacking. It is also going to help to prevent muscle mass loss, which can happen exponentially during perimenopause if we're not strength training, if we're not eating enough protein, allowing our muscles to recover. So it's going to be really, really important for so many factors, for body tone, for our bone density. So protein is going to be first and foremost. So when you get to each meal, just really simply, where's my protein? Start with the protein. And that might be something so easy as, instead of having toast for breakfast, have eggs on toast for breakfast. Instead of having cereal, have a base of Greek yogurt with a bit of cereal on top. That would be really high protein at breakfast time. And then at lunch, start with the protein. Where is it? And build around from there. That's going to be really, really important to do. And also tends to be quite easy to start with the protein source as well and just build around there. And you'll probably end up with a more balanced meal. And there isn't anything wrong with bread and cheese, but I'd probably say if you really want bread and cheese, go for it and make sure there is a side of some protein there. Yes, cheese is high in protein. Yes, it is. But it depends on how much cheese you're going to put in your bread. And also, it is high in fat. So if you're on a weight loss diet or you're trying to watch your weight, then it can be higher. It can be higher in, it's more energy dense, is what I'm trying to say. So it depends on what you're after and what you really want. But yeah, I would just start with, say, in that example, bread and cheese. You could go for a salad with some cheese, or maybe with some tuna, or maybe with some ham, whatever it might be, protein. So you've got salad and then protein. Make sure you've got enough protein. Start with the protein always. And so choose your protein source, add a load of salad. So you've got loads of fiber in there, lots of different colors. And then maybe cutting up a little bit of a baguette, having a couple of pieces of baguette with it, like a couple of slices or whatever. Then great. So you can have your bread and cheese, if you see what I mean. So start with protein is what I'm trying to say. And then the second point about intermittent fasting, you have to do what works for you in that particular chapter of life. And some people do find that intermittent fasting, so having long periods where they don't eat, actually really works for them, or eating within a certain window really works for them. And it helps them, maybe if they're losing weight, maintain a calorie deficit. But that is literally just because they're eating less. It's not anything to do with fasting itself. It's just because they're eating less over the span of the 24 hours. And some people find that actually it helps them stick to it. Other people find that actually they feel rubbish, and when they do eat, they end up overeating and they're thinking about food all the time. They're really struggling with their energy. They're struggling with their recovery from their workouts. And it used to work for them and now it doesn't. And I would say just be adaptable. Be adaptable for how your body responds and what you need at that time.